Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host, HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And today it has been 3 years in Azkaban. Okay, not in Azkaban, but 3 years we've been waiting. And here we are, finally, with the latest in the Dragon Prince saga, the Dragon Prince Season 4 Mystery of Erebus. Although I think it's also now the name to the entire show, I believe.
What do you mean?
On Netflix, they just advertised the entirety of the Dragon Prince now as Mystery of Everest. Like it's
Yeah,
supposed to be.
they've started doing that for season 4. Like it's kind of supposed to be their new show now. It's no
Yeah,
longer the
but
Dragon Prince.
either way, regardless, we're still gonna call it the Dragon Prince because it's the Dragon Prince. You can't tell me it isn't. But we're finally back with season 4. We already covered the first 3 seasons, if you if you want to hear our full detailed thoughts about these seasons, you can go check them out right now. But to kind of sum up, we like the show. I would even say we're big fans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Season 1 was a bit,
Agreed.
starting on, a getting started season, but seasons 2 and 3 were great. And we were waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And here we are finally with Dragon Prince Season 4. To those who are new here, then we're going to start with a bit of a spoiler free talk to kind of give our general opinions of this season. And later on, we'll give you a warning when we're about to dive into spoilers. So, overall, I would say a great season which was worth the wait, but not without its problems.
I disagree.
Oh, disagree how?
I don't think it was worth the wait. I think this is not a good season overall. Like, don't get me
Ooh.
wrong, I didn't hate it. I think there's good stuff here, but overall, I walked away from this kind of disappointed in it.
Hmm. Like I had disappointments too, but I think overall what we got was great.
I
If
yeah, I don't feel that way. I came into this expecting more. Maybe I'm being entitled. Maybe I was overhyped. I don't know, but I walk away from it disappointed.
I'll tell you what, I think there is this kind of feeling that because it's been so long, then this season kind of had to do some stuff that they probably didn't want to. Because if I think there's kind of a comparison to another dragon show with Race to the Edge, that how that also kind of had a time skip from the previous season, so they need to take the first season to kind of set everything up again, just to kind of get you in the vibe. Uh,
Hmm.
I think this season kind of out of its hand kind of had to do it too because it's been so long, but at the same time I don't think it damaged it that much, but it seems like it kind of hurted the overall product for you, though.
I for me, I think my biggest issues come from it from where there is I don't know. I think for me, it's not necessarily the wait. I'm fine with waiting for a show. For me, I think it comes from the fact that I feel like there's a lot of mistakes that came up in the writing, and I think a lot of that comes back to the 2 year time skip.
Mhm.
I think
So,
I personally feel there was quite a few bad calls made in terms of writing for this season, especially coming off of season 3, right? Even if it has been 3 years, I think that they made some poor choices here,
mhm.
personally.
So I think really the best way to understand this more is if we start going into spoilers. So If you haven't watched the season, this is your chance to close the video. So go watch the season, come back later. Spoilers are starting in 3, 2, 1. Still here, good. So Viren is not dead.
Well, I mean, we kind of knew that by season 3's
Yeah,
ending.
I know. It's a joke. I was just making a joke about how you say after the spoilers, still here, good. Everyone dies. So this one, no, Viren didn't die, but we kind of knew it. So anyway, I think so. Let's start with what kind of writing problems did you have? Just walk me through this, and
Oh
we'll
boy.
kind of.
I mean, all right. I'm gonna be frank. I think the 2-year time skip. One, there are glimpses, right? There are glimpses of these characters feel like they have changed and grown, but they're glimpses. I don't feel like there's been a 2-year time skip. I feel like I'm watching the same characters make the same choices and do the same things and say similar things to what they did 2 years ago. These are teenagers and preteens in regards to Ezran, and 2 years of time is a lot for them. And I feel like they should have changed a little bit more than what they did, but I'm seeing nothing different. I got a few glimpses of Ezran being that kind of wiser king that I expect him to be after 2 years of ruling the kingdom. But then it's still Ezran doing the same shit more often than not. Those glimpses are just that, glimpses. Callum, has he changed at all? Same with Rayla. Has she changed it all other than their designs?
I would argue with them that there's less to change because they were already forced to grow so much in the journey, and they were already, teens.
I disagree, but maybe that's just me, and I could be being nitpicky here. But speaking of Callum and Rayla,
okay, this I will say this is the weakest part of the season. What the fuck happened here?
I mean, I get, right, there's the book, and it explains so much, but
yeah,
I was about to
mention.
I own the book, but I've not read it yet. But I'm going to be honest with you, because of how shitty this whole, hey, she left, and that's a perfect example, right? She left. She comes back. You have a scene of her sitting there saying, well, Callum's asleep. Man, I fucked it up. I really ruined something good, didn't I? All because my need for revenge. And then off of that, like Callum's asleep when she says that, off of that, we go through the season and we have another point of her like, there's Viren, turns to Callum, I have to go after him. And Callum's like, yeah, I know you do, go for it. And it's like,
missed the scene that's also kind of, that there's this point where, after Everest, I think I keep mispronouncing his name. Is it Everest or Everest?
Erebos.
Erebos, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So because after Erebos actually takes over Callum's body for a bit, which is a good scene. So there's this point where, like, out of earshot of the other of their friends, Callum just tells Rayla, if it happens again, you kill me. You need to be ready to kill me.
I saw that scene. That's not really my point, right? I don't think
I'm just saying though, this is because they played this scene off as if they were dating and nothing ever went wrong.
Well, they play it for a joke a bit, and it's, I don't know, I feel like some of their jokes this season took away from the story at this point. Like, in the past, it felt like I'll get to that point too in a minute. I got a lot of points to make here. My original point, though, Callum and Rayla, it felt like, especially for Rayla, right, in that instance, when she turns to Callum and asks him, hey, I gotta go after Viren, and Callum says, yeah, like, all right, you're supposed to sit there and like, all right, that's growth. This time she asked Callum instead of just disappearing without saying a word. But it's like, we have no context within the show for her first disappearance. Yes, we have zero context to that. So
this is what I was about to say. I know that there's a book.
It means nothing to us watching the show. And you can say, well, you should have read the book. But if I have to read a book in order to enjoy the season of your show, you have failed as writers. End of discussion.
I've said it once in a bunch of other times. I'll say it again here. If I need to rely on outside media to get the full experience from the main thing, then no, the show failed in this regard. I agree with you.
I'm
And especially because, from what I've heard, the book in which this happens is also kind of like an adaptation of the end of season three. So when I heard this, when I heard that all the books and stuff are basically novelizations, I'm like, well, I've seen the show. Why do I need to read the books for?
That's fair.
So, so if I'm to blame for not reading the book, then fine, blame on me. But at the same time, should I have to? Should I have to read the side stuff in order to understand the main show?
No, but I mean, I think this show I think this season, right, would have succeeded so much more if they would have at least included like flashbacks to those moments, to her leaving quietly and not telling Callum, to how Callum felt about that, and to like some interim period during that time as well. If they would have included flashbacks to those moments, and we'll get to Claudia and Terry in a minute too. I got some thoughts there as well. But I mean, if they would have included flashbacks to these moments, to that time that we didn't get to see, we don't need to see all of it. You don't need to go through all of it. Just give us flashbacks to the important moments and sacrifice that C plot. I think this season would have done so much better and just been better, in my opinion. I think as interesting as the C plot with Janaya, with Amaya and Janaya, I guess that works because I guess that's their ship name. I don't fucking know what their ship name is, but yeah, Amaya and Janai. If they would have sacrificed that C plot, because as interesting as that was and as fun as that was to watch, it's not important to our main story here. We don't need that. That should have been your damn book. Your damn book should have been about that. Your C plot in this show, Amaya and Janai. I'm going to fuck up the names every time probably now. That should have been the plot for your book. That should have been what your book was about. Because that would have been a great fucking book.
Mm-hmm.
Not the important shit with the main characters who we're fucking following. That's not what you put in your book. And then hope people read so they can have some context for your show. That's just... Like, every time I see a company say, we're going to create a multimedia franchise and it's going to be all this extra stuff and you're going to be able to like have all this lore and this character building, every time they do this shit, they fuck it up because they have to put important shit in one of their books or one of their other media things. That's not how you do this. If you want to create these multimedia franchises, you take these side characters that aren't as important to your main story, and you do shit with them in your side shit.
Like,
that's what they're for.
For example, actually, I know that there are some Stranger Things books that focus on like Max before she joined the cast in season 2. So that's like a right example. That's a right example of doing it. In my opinion,
because we don't necessarily need the book. It gives more context to her character if you read it. It allows you to understand her character more potentially if you read it, but you don't need to understand that stuff in order to know why she makes the decisions she makes on the show.
Because it takes place after, because it takes place before, then by definition it's like one of those. If you want to read it, then sure, you get a bit more out of it, but it's not necessary to understand the actual show. And in this, I agree, but. At the same, regarding Calm and Rayla, I just want to say that, okay, you know what? This is in a book, fine. No, it's not fine, but it's like, okay, you know what? You want to play that game? Sure, it's part of the book. But what also bothers me about this is that throughout the entire season, they never once speak about this. Callum is just not willing to talk at any capacity, and Rayla is just okay with him wanting space. It's like no. Communication in the relationships is important. We should have gotten at least one scene of them at least talking about it, giving some context to it. Because as of now, she left for no reason. And like that point where you said she's like, oh, this time she asked Callum for permission to go after Vera, and it's like, am I supposed to, again, you say this based on what we kind of know from the book, but they never really talk about this in the show.
Mm.
They don't never really specify why she had to leave. Like, they say she had a hunch, but it's not enough. It's not enough at all. And like, well, I agree with Callum that he's right to be mad that she ran, that she just left for 2 years. I also kind of think you should at least give her a chance to explain herself. So it's just both of them come up as idiots whenever this thing is brought up to pass, and I know a lot of people who are disappointed with that as well.
Yeah, it's not good relationship writing at the end of the day, right? And it's like, we've seen these two in a relationship now. They had that time together during the 2-year time skip. Like, there was time where they were together and fine, and now they're not. And it's like, you expect to see growth here, not
Because for all we know, she left
going backwards.
like 5 minutes after they told each other that they love each other.
Yeah, and again, like that, right? That's the thing. Like, we have no context for how long they were together for. We have no context, and that's why, in my opinion, it doesn't feel good, because there is zero context there. We don't have the context of any of it, of their relationship, other than what we had in season 3, and we don't know where things went from there. Like, if you, again, this is why I come back and say, I think if they would have had flashbacks, if they would have just sacrificed the C plot with Amaya and Janai, we would have been better off.
I must say,
I say this as someone who likes the C plot. I thought the C plot with Amaya and Janai was really
I was
good.
about to say that this C plot with Amaya and Janai and everything around it, this was like, when I say the season was rolled the rate, was because of these moments. I really like these moments. I really like this entire C plot. And, from any way you're looking at it, like, this could have been a show on its own. But
it could have been a book on its own. Wink,
yeah,
wink.
they did so well with it. But yeah, when you really get down to it, and this is the problem I must stress. As much as I enjoyed the season, I will agree, it feels disjointed from everything else that's going on.
Yeah, like, I get what they're trying to do with it, and I understand why they feel the need to include it, but I think the problem is again, like, we're coming back after 3 years. We've defeated, we had our big climax in season 3, and now, we're trying to essentially tie up some loose ends, and that in the big loose end is Erebos.
But
right?
At the same time, we also need to kind of, because after this we have 3 more seasons to go through, so I guess they're sitting down.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying though is, I feel like coming back, our focus should have been on our main 3 or 4, if we're including Soren now. I feel like the focus should have been on that group more than anything else. I feel like that should have been the major focus of, Rayla, Callum, Ezra, and Soren, and Claudia, Viren, and I guess Terry now. We'll get there.
So just to I guess because we so the Callum and Rayla stuff, we both agree is not good. There's
some moments there that I liked, but overall, it feels like, I feel like it would have been better if we would have had, like, sacrificed the C plot for some flashbacks to give us more context.
Yeah, so, and I was about to say with Amaya and Janai that we agree it's a good plot, but it's also...
It's one of my favorite things of the season, to be honest. Amaya and Janai is one of the favorite things it was one of my favorite things of this season, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree on that. Like, again, I love this part, and again, when I say I enjoyed the season, I talked about them a lot. But it's also one of those, when you think about it, it's not as important to the main plot. I agree there.
At least as far as I'm aware right now, I don't have any context for right now. If they roll it back into, I might come back later in season 7 and say, "Holy shit, it was worth it." But as of right now, based on season 4 alone, I feel like, even though I loved what you did with it, even though I thought it was great and really well done, I feel like You should have sacrificed some of that or all of that to give more focus to our main story and our main characters here and our
But at
main
the same
villains.
time, I will say that, you know what, if we needed to have this like side plot to build up something for the future, at least I'm happy that it was interesting and not, and you know,
That's
the
fair.
plot also kind of has a beginning, middle, end in this season.
That's fair.
It doesn't, it's not something that you need the other season in order to get, which a lot of shows do. So I at least appreciate that it closed itself up
That's fair. That's
for
very
now.
fair.
Mhm. Now, I guess so. I know you have a lot to say, so let's move on to the villain, Claudia and Terry. Vlad. Okay, I get it. You don't like Terry.
I have nothing wrong with Terry. Terry's fine. My issue is right. It looks like they're trying to set up Claudia and Terry as this kind of foil / parallel to Callum and Rayla, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a great idea. I once again come back to the word you're probably going to hear in this particular episode of the podcast a lot: context. Context.
Because okay, for the I'll say this: I like Terry. I think he's wholesome personally.
Why is
But
he with these two? I don't fucking know.
But actually, wait. No, I think he. Okay, they say he's trans. I think it's he. So, but basically, I think Terry was wholesome. But Terry also kind of shows up out of nowhere. Claudia is like, "Hey, I have a boyfriend now. Cool."
Again, I would be fine with it, but again, like I come back to, I think there should have been flashbacks, because again, there's this great scene between Claudia and Soren, right? And you have Claudia go through all this stuff of, you know, the elves and dragons pitied us. They looked down on us like we were nothing but just animals. They pitied us for it. And it's like, my entire time listening to her say these things to Soren, I was sitting there like, but you're dating one. But you're dating one. But you're dating one. And it's like, okay, are we setting up here this idea of Claudia's just using him? I'm fine with that. That's great. Do that.
I'll tell you what.
My issue is, though, we don't have any context for that. We don't have any context for how they met. It's just they've met. They're dating now. They apparently love one another to some degree. Especially Terry in regards to Claudia, but we don't know how Claudia feels about him. And it feels like they might be setting up this Claudia's just been using him whole deal. And I'm fine with that. I think that's a great direction because, again, it makes Claudia into the villain they're trying to make her to be. And I'm fine with that. I'm great with that. I love that. Do that. But I need the context. That scene alone is not enough for me to sit here and say, okay, I see what you're doing now. I can assume, but without any context whatsoever, that assumption means nothing, and I have no connection here. I have no idea here. If I could see how they met and how Claudia felt about him when they met, even if there's just this subtle hint of, yeah, okay, she doesn't actually care, she's just using him a little bit, and maybe it developed a little bit more later on, that would be fine, but there's none of that there because we don't have any of those flashbacks. We don't have that context. We just know they're together. And then she says this, you know, all of that spiel to Soren. And then there's scenes of her maybe having feelings for Terry, or, you know, it just, there's, again, I come back to it, my context. I don't have it. And so I
want to say, if I may kind of bring up a counterpoint here, like the thing you say regarding what she says to Soren, I get you. I get you in the fact that, yes, she kind of comes across as a hypocrite when it comes to, oh, they looked down at us, they stepped on us and stuff. Yet she's dating one. Yeah, that is actually something that's interesting about the relationship, because you can see Terry thinks the world of Claudia. You can see he loves her, and there are some moments where it's even shown that she loves him. But we'll get to this. But he thinks the world of Claudia, and I think it's one of those moments that suddenly you find the appreciation and the type of personalities you kind of longed for in the other side. on the other side, like when you find the one that's different. I agree there that Terry doesn't get enough of an introduction for us to really know why he started dating Claudia, and because he's willingly helping them. And Viren did some pretty bad shit to his kind. So I agree there that that's kind of like wait a minute, what's he? Maybe he himself has beef with you know with some of the magical creatures in Zadia. We may never know because this entire show basically started with Aswen and Callum going off with a woman who tried killing their father, and Callum eventually started dating him. So it's not like the idea of people turning on their side doesn't exist here. I do
No, I
agree
mean
that it's missing.
I don't think that's my issue with it. My issue is that if they're trying to give this idea of Claudia stringing him along, we have no context for that other than what she
And
says to
that's
Soren.
something I want to get to. That's what
Okay.
I want to get in. I mean, just in terms of the relationship, her saying all that stuff despite dating someone from that side. I get that because again, he could just be like the odd one out, like Krella was. So
Fair
this
enough.
I didn't find that much of a problem here. Now, what I do find interesting and yet frustrating is that in out of like if we have to do the blatant avatar comparisons for a second, then Claudia is basically the Azula.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like here is that there are moments where you can kind of tell she has some Azula in her because she Soren had the conscience to betray the Virian. He and step to the good side, but Claudia is still kind of blindly following her father to the point she even says, and I wish we kind of saw that, but she says that in order to bring Virian back, she had to let Erebus take control of her. And she's and she is willing to kill. She's willing to tease the heroes and everything. But you can tell that there are moments of conscience for
Mm-hmm.
her.
Like
You
when
can
she
tell that there are
gives
moments.
Rayla the coins of her parents, but at Terry's urging.
There's that, but there are also other stuff like when she fights the Guardian, when Zim and his mother are visiting the kingdom. She does kind of say, I don't want, she doesn't necessarily want it to end with her killing him. She kind of wants to take the staff and go. It's Terry who ends up killing him. And but there are also some other moments where it feels like she's actually thinking things through. She thinks, wait, maybe I should do this, maybe not. And when Rayla has her knife at Terry's throat, she does stop for a second. She doesn't say he doesn't mean anything to me. And this is kind of the point where they set up that maybe Terry starts to believe she's leading him on, and maybe she does. We don't know yet, but I felt more that it was just a matter of not necessarily, a psychotic woman who doesn't care, but more considering her options. I'm not necessarily saying it's a better thing,
And
but
which, again, right?
I
Go ahead. I'll wait.
I just want to say that that's kind of how I read it.
Wait, no, that's
That's it.
fair. And I think that's a good way to read it because I think what they might be trying to set up is that maybe it started as, Terry was useful and Claudia led him on. And it became a thing of, okay, she might actually have more feelings for him, especially because he was able to convince her to hey, give those coins to Rayla because what you did back there was really cruel, especially even for you, right? And she's like,
Mhm.
you know what? Yeah, you're right. Because she had that talk with Terry. And it's like, maybe you can look at that as she only did that because, oh, he's, becoming doubtful. I need to get him back on my side again. But I feel like, what they're trying to set up is this thing of it might have started off as her using him and then it's slowly changing into something more than that, which is fine. Again, I come back to there's no context for any of that, so it's hard to say because we have nothing there. And like my biggest thing is it's hard to care about a lot of these characters because a lot of the shit they're going to apparently happen during a time that
it happened
we weren't there for. And it's like, cool, you can tell me all about it, but I don't care because I wasn't there for that. I didn't see any of that. I wasn't there for any of that. I don't have any context in any of that. So it's like, what does that matter to me and what's going on right now within the show?
Yeah, okay. That's, again, I agree with you there. It doesn't bother me as much because I think what we have is still pretty strong, but I get you.
To be clear, I might be being very nitpicky here. I very well could be.
I think it's a fair point.
I accept that. I accept that if that's the case, if everybody else is like, no, you're wrong, Wolf, you're awful at this. It's like, you know what? Fair. This is me being nitpicky, and I could come back season 5 and say, you know what? I was wrong. And I hope I am.
On that note, let's hope we won't have to wait another 3 years for this.
Hey. If I'm being nitpicky, though, I have to bring it up at this point. The first 3 seasons, I could let it go. I didn't say too much about it. I could let it go because they came out fairly quick succession, like literally 2018 to 2019. There was barely a year apart between any of them. And they were a fairly new studio working on all of this, and they were just coming together with everything. But they had 3 years now. They have 4 seasons now.
So I just wonder if we're gonna talk about this. Then due to some reports and some inside sources, I have this studio had to face a lot of bad management in a lot of regards, and when it came to working on the Dragon Prince, there was even people in the studio weren't even sure that when all of those were brought up, if Netflix would even greenlit the other seasons, but they did.
Okay, well,
and like we do.
That's fair enough. Then maybe I shouldn't be so harsh. And then maybe then I don't want to be too harsh on that then. But we are still suffering from those animation issues.
No, like for the record, I just want to say that the people who were wrong in that studio, it's awful, and my heart goes out to them. I hope that the bad people got consequences for what they did. But it's also, I think in this case, there's also a difference between what happened behind the scenes and the actual product you got. It might explain it, but if it's not working for you, then it's not working.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. I think the only thing I was going to bring up, though, is that, we're still suffering from those animation issues. Still. They're there.
Actually, in this season, I found actually some clipping issues. Like, I noticed some animation errors.
Granted, right? Every show out there is going to have animation errors if you're looking closely.
Of course. Like,
right?
Again, keep in mind, one of the, Frozen, I know it's beaten by Frozen 2 now, but like the highest grossing animated film of all time, it has this debatable glitch where Elsa's braid, phases through her shoulder. So, things are going. Sometimes things happen, and you can't really get around it.
But I am focused on
the point is how much can they? I just want to say the point is how much they can hide it. And technically, I think I just caught some really real moments that nobody else would, but I did notice a few things.
For me, I mostly focused on they still have that slowdown issue where it's like things.
Really?
Yeah, I noticed it especially in episode 1. There's a few moments of it later in the season, but I really noticed it in episode 1, and then after that, I didn't notice it as much. I will admit.
I noticed that because because this was a recurring thing in season 1. Seasons 2 and 3 fixed that, but I think here
they fixed it to a degree. You could still notice it and pick up on it, but yeah, they did fix it to a degree. Here, like I said, I mostly noticed it in episode 1, and then a little bit here or there. But it's like I can't believe we're still suffering from that, and you had 3 years to work on this.
Honestly, I think because I guess this show kind of works on with a similar technology that Ruby does. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I have no clue. I cannot tell you, but
they have similar styles though. So like
Yeah, no,
I
fair.
can, plot aside, because people know that I have my share of criticisms regarding movies plot, but I think the fact that they can actually allow the characters to move in this frame rate does it better than trying to kind of limit it.
No, I mean, yeah, again, it's fair, right? Like, I don't want to harp on it too much because it overall doesn't detract from the show, but it is there, and I'm still noticing it. And I kind of feel like after 4 seasons and 3 years between season 3 and season 4, and you've sold a few books now as well, you should be able to fix these issues
Yeah.
more than what you are.
I
Maybe that's
want to
just
say
me.
maybe this is something with the production problem, but I can't tell you. It's something that, is out there.
Again, I'm not going to harp on it too much. I'm just bringing it up, right?
Yeah. So anyway, I think the one thing I do want to bring up with the Claudia Terry Vance side, I really enjoyed Viren this season.
Yeah, I thought Viren was great. I think I really enjoyed. Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed everything they did with his character, like having him come back and the PTSD and him kind of just
Yeah, like
questioning
that.
everything until he finally holds on to his staff and does something with his staff, right? And then you see the old Viren look like he's coming back, right? I enjoyed all of
Yeah,
that.
and
I
that.
enjoyed that small progression for him from.
Mhm. That because he's not just coming back and wants revenge automatically. It's just he's coming back. He's not sure. There's even a point where he says, "You know what? Maybe I'll just live this month. Take my time to appreciate what I didn't when I was alive and end it." And it's Claudia that kind of pushes him. No, we are bringing you back for good. And I really enjoyed that. It was great.
Yeah, and like again, like him not wanting to touch or carry his old staff, like everything about that was really great, was really enjoyable. Just all of the questioning there going on in his mind, like they did that really. Again, that's another thing that this season did really well was with Viren and that small journey he had through the season.
And
Like it was
I
really
would
good.
also say Soren was also a show stealer. Like I was afraid that they were
Mm-hmm.
gonna Flanderize him in the comedy route, but no, and he's still funny. Don't get me wrong, he's still
Mm-hmm.
funny, but
Mm-hmm.
he also has a lot of good serious moments and a lot of like moments where he has to carry the scene by himself,
Well,
basically.
again, like him, everything. The scene with him and Claudia was great.
Yeah.
That was
Hmm.
really good, and like
Yeah.
Claudia's response was really good. Like I just got through talking shit about it in regards to Terry, but ignoring the side of Terry, like
Yeah.
it was a great scene between
No, the
Claudia and
conversation
Soren.
itself is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing goes when when Zim and his mother visit kingdom, and when Aswen presents the queen with like the mural, and someone actually cuts her head from the drawing, and
Mm-hmm.
so on is the first one who goes, "Who did this?" I'm like, if I find whoever did this, like you can obviously he's exaggerating this, but you can tell that it personally hurt him that someone would go to destroy the gift they made
Mm-hmm.
for their allies,
But then,
supposedly,
like
just because of a vendetta.
that was a great moment for Ezran too, because seeing
No,
him
for
be
Ezra
the
especially,
king there,
yes.
like seeing him like, all right, this is the 2 years of ruling a kingdom. This is what I want to see from this character. Him having changed and grown up somewhat because he had no choice but to do so. This is what I want to see from this character.
And he's also saying some really grown up stuff. Like he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't just, he doesn't necessarily order anyone to be executed. He doesn't necessarily, does that out of a prank for Zim's mother or something. He just says, you know what? Yes, I understand you people are mad. Blood was shed in the war with the Zadians, but at the same time, you know what? We can also stop this. We can grow from this. We can try and put the past behind us and actually walk towards a better future for us. And that's not even good for Aslan. This is like a good message in general
Oh
for the
yeah.
shitty world we live in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100% agreed. Like,
So yeah.
I even loved, right, the you know, again, like Ezran being clever enough to figure out what gift to give Rex Igneous, right? And all of them talking about the gifts they did
On
give
that
Rex
note,
Igneous, and then what those gifts meant to them personally, and Rex being like, all right, cool, you gave me some shit that impressed you, that was personal to you. What about me though, yo? And Ezra being like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. What about you? And then, you know, the jelly tarts. I saw you mention elsewhere to
I was
to
about
a
to
friend
mention
of
this.
ours that you were really glad about the jelly tarts and what they were.
I'm looking for the damn English name for it, but oh, okay. Like I guess the like because it's called Homentage. It's like you know, it's a it's a Jewish treat for the holiday Purim, which is the Jewish Halloween, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the jelly tarts initially were based on it. Like it was the same shape, but they don't have they didn't. There's no jelly in there. There was
Mm-hmm.
something else.
Mm-hmm.
And here, when Azran actually asks the baker to make something of it, so he said, "I put this like brown stuff in here inside," and you know. So that's actually how a Hamantash is. That's like the legit thing put in there, and it ended up being the best peace offering for Rex. So I'm like, you know what? I as a Jewish person, thank you, show.
That's sweet. I enjoyed that.
For the record, I actually don't really like Hamantash, but oh well.
I'm guessing like that's supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, that's supposed to be like a chocolate thing, right?
Kinda. It's not like it's not necessarily chocolate, though you
Mm.
can switch it with chocolate. It's complicated to explain at the moment, but
Fair enough.
it's there.
But it is originally a Jewish treat, and that's what the jelly tarts are based off of. Cool.
Yeah, so the fact that they actually had the real thing in there, it's really cool.
That's neat.
Mhm. So so on that note, so I like so and also like I guess we can't do this podcast without mentioning the yip yip.
The yip yip.
It's like as soon as I'm like, oh,
Fair
but you know,
enough.
this is just because obviously I think they know people kind of coming to this from Avatar, so they try to put in those references.
Well, I
So
mean,
like,
you know, there was the whole like, hey, let's look at Rex Igneous's horde. Huh? That glider looks really familiar.
and no, like there was also in the previous seasons where Callum sees a boomerang and he goes, "Oh, this boomerang feels familiar."
Yeah.
I see you. By the
Yeah.
way, this is something I didn't know. Apparently, Callum's voice actor. I know he's Sokka before you say it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
apparently, Callum's voice actor also does some of the sounds for Zim.
Huh. Neat.
According to Wikipedia, he's responsible for those. Which kudos. I thought they just took puppy sounds, but no, apparently it's him.
Huh. Neat.
So that being said, um, so I think Sohan was also did good this season, and you know, I guess moving on, I also enjoyed Azran actually taking on as king. I get what you mean with that. At some point, if it feels like he still hasn't grown up as much, but at the same time, I think when he actually has to be king, he's doing a great job.
Yeah. Well, even when he's
And
again, I think there are some good moments when he's not being king as well. It's just, you know, I felt like those moments were overshadowed of going back to what we've originally seen, and again, like we're being told there's a 2-year time skip, and I feel like there shouldn't. While you can have those moments, you know, again, like you're not. I'm not saying you should be completely different after 2 years. I'm saying like I just expected to see more changes between the characters
I
and their
saw it a bit
personalities.
more. I saw, but you know, the one point where it is shown is with Callum's, magic skills, because he's not like if he had trouble with some spells before, and now he's like a full on mage, and that was really cool to see. I was happy to see him actually, just be a
Speaking
full
of
on mage.
that, speaking of
Hmm.
that, right? We're
Yeah.
still we're doing this shit of like 3 seasons we had of people telling Callum, humans can't do magic, humans can't do magic, humans can't do magic, you know, it's impossible, you can't do this thing. Literally has been doing the thing, is now like the first, you know, probably the first ever primal mage of the humans who can do what the elves do. Why is no one fucking still mentioning that shit and saying the best we have gotten from the elves or dragons is you can't do it. And that's like, I feel like this shit of multiple elves and dragons telling Callum you can't do it, and then him doing it, and then those same people like just going silent and going you can do it. Like, I feel it's just, it bothers me still, because it's like,
it's such a big thing
you
that's
spent
happening.
all the time telling us it's not possible, and now that it has been proven that it is possible, no one's acting like that's a big deal. No one gives a shit about that, and it's like,
yeah, that's, I admit I haven't thought about that. That's a good point.
Like,
yeah.
It bothers me still. Like, and again, I don't expect season 4 to give me the answers to this, but that was one of the things I came to season, you know, this season expecting to have something come up about, because again, we had the entire shit of the final 3rd season of the, you know, one of the strongest sky mages ever, right? Of the elves, one of the strongest sky elves to ever exist, apparently. Blah, 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 bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. And he's like, you can't learn this spell. You can't do it. You're human. That's how it is. He's doing the spell now. He did the spell to save the day.
Yeah, okay. I am with you. I agree with that.
Come back to the shit we focused on is not what I came here to get. It's not what I came to season 4 for. I came to season 4 to learn more about Erebos and his deal, and to finally stop him. And I came to season 4 to learn more about the shit of why are they telling Callum he can't do this shit and Callum can do this shit. Is there something different about Callum, or is it just humans can do this shit? These motherfuckers were just fucking stupid.
I want to say, like, this is a theory thing. You know, future seasons can either confirm it or completely spit in about what I'm about to say. But we know that Callum is adopted.
If they do a thing of Callum as part elf, I'm gonna fucking... This show is terrible at that point. This show deserves to be thrown in the fucking bin, because they set up all this bullshit of how and again, they had it this season of how the elves and the dragons looked down on the humans, how they pitied them, how they mistreated them. End of discussion. That's been the thing that this show has continuously done, right? I know you're not. Buddy. I'm just getting that out there now. If that's what this show does, it's to the bin with you, show. To the bin. You're getting thrown in the trash. You're bad if you do that. Go ahead now. You may continue. So, I'm done.
I'm not saying that he's some sort of an elf or something, but I am saying, considering that we do kind of get a backstory regarding Erebos, and you know the fact that there was some sort of a war with him, and that he in a sense is kind of that he's kind of manipulated people. I have a feel. I don't know what, but I have a feeling. He is related to Erebos somehow. And maybe, I'm not entirely sure about that. I think he's kind of, maybe he might even be like a being without, like, that he's not necessarily an elf or something, but he's some sort of a magical being that, in the sense that he came to the world with no explanation. He's like a byproduct of magic. That's a theory. They could completely not do that. Like, the crew behind the show can listen to this and have their asses up about how much I'm wrong. I'm just saying, I don't think he's necessarily human.
No matter what they do, I think Callum should be human. This is just something humans could do, and I think it should be a thing of the way, again, like it's there to show that the elves and the dragons were wrong in how they viewed humans. If they make him special in some way, I think they've ruined their messaging. Personally, that's my opinion. I think if, Callum's actually special and he's the only one who can do this because insert whatever, I think you've ruined your messaging at that point. The entire time you've put forward this idea that humans can't do this, and to show that humans can do this, and to not fucking acknowledge it is also a fucking problem. But anyways, we'll get there. Maybe they will. So I'm not going to judge them for it too harshly yet. They have 3 more seasons. And if they do nothing with this shit, I'm going to be fucking pissed. I'm going to be angry.
But I will say, this is something I haven't thought of, but it's a good point.
But I do feel like you set all this up, right? So, and we've still got nothing from it. Nothing. And it's 3 seasons left. I better see something, man. I better see something. Or I'm throwing you in the bin, show. It's right there.
Okay. We get it. The bin is there. We'll get there.
I'm throwing you in there. You better do something.
Anyway, but the A plot, if you will, is that now, like, so Zim's mother is giving us the rundown about Erebus.
Yeah, like we get, we finally find out more about Erebus. He is a star-touched elf, and they are apparently extremely powerful. And he's been basically like behind the scenes, whispering into different people's ears and getting them to do evil shit that basically helped make him stronger.
Including King Harrow, we find.
Yes, including him, and even including Viren, and including getting Zim's dad killed, right? Like, he's behind all this shit. Like, he's the one who's done all of it, been behind it all. And the dragons realized this long ago, and so they worked together with some elves to, stop him. And we even find out, right, that apparently it was a human originally who figured all of this out, and supposedly Ezrin looks like this young human. So, maybe they're going somewhere with that. We don't know. We'll find out in season 5, I guess.
Maybe, but the point is, so our point now is that the key, so there are several keys that we need to find in order to seal Erebus for good, and each key was kind of entrusted to a different dragon, and the first one they need to go to is one that apparently has a bit of a beef with Zim's dad, but onward they go. And I think the journey is where the season is starting to drag a bit, but eventually they get to him.
Yeah, no, I think I really, I think, oh man, it was around, I'm going to say episode, I'm going to say episode 4 when I realized, we're not going to, that's when I realized, okay, so it's just going to be the one dragon we get to meet. It's going to be all the journey up to him. We get to meet him, and that's literally it. And that's when I kind of got a little bit disappointed, when I started getting more and more disappointed of, man, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm in the wrong here, but I expected more from this season.
I don't want to say that it's, you're wrong or anything. It's just a matter of opinion.
I mean, again, that's fair, right? Again,
and I do agree that, because now we're essentially doing a fetch,
which I'm fine with, but I don't know. This season, I saw someone else mention it, and I see exactly where they're coming from. It feels a lot like RWBY Volume 8, right? Where our main characters, our protagonists, got very little done, and it felt like our villains did way more and got way more done.
It's interesting because that's something I brought up when we did RWBY Volume 8, that the main characters are basically doing nothing at this point. But I don't know, I didn't really feel that they accomplished that. At the end of the day, it is kind of like when the season ended, I'm kind of like, okay, we didn't really go anywhere. I had fun, but we didn't really go anywhere with the main characters. But I at least felt that they went on some sort of a journey. They at least attempted. There were some things that kind of moved the plot along. So I don't think it's as bad, but I definitely see what
I think.
This point holds water.
I feel like this season, right? They had to have the villains come away on the up and up, because if they didn't, who's gonna care? Because if the
Yeah.
heroes had gotten the map and everything would have been fine, and that's where the season ended, then the villains would have been so far behind that it wouldn't have felt enjoyable anymore, because it would have felt like, the villains would have been the underdog at that point, and they already were the underdog, really, because Viren died and had to come back to life and everything, and they only have 30 days for
Yeah,
him.
but
And
I guess it's a matter. But then there's also like we do get some interesting bits of like that. Yeah, Rex kind of did hate Zim's dad, but when he heard he died, he is kind of in a shock about it. And when he hears that they came to see him due to Zim's mother's wishes, he does help them a bit. I don't, not necessarily plays along, but like he does, want to help. It's only when Claudia and all the others show up when he thinks he's been deceived, and that kind of sends him into a frenzy.
mhm. I
But
loved the moment with Rex, like, talking shit about Zim's dad, and then all of a sudden he finds out that his dad was killed and died, and
yeah,
I loved the switch emotionally there, right? Like, just how everything
mhm.
changed instantly. Like, he's like, all right, hey, he might have been my rival at one point. I might be talking shit, but he was also my friend at one point too. I
Yeah,
loved
definitely.
that. That was another great moment from this show.
Hmm.
Man, I want to love this show so damn much, but it's like this season. I wanted to come in,
Uh,
like, I want to be clear, right? I wanted to come in and say, I loved this season. Everything about it was solid and great. I hate that I have to sit here, right, and say,
Yeah, I get you. I
eh,
understand where you're going. Like, I don't necessarily agree. I think overall the positives, you know, did more for
which
me
is
to
completely
get.
fair, right? I understand that most
Yeah,
people will probably walk away from the season saying everything good about it is way better than everything bad about it. That is
but
completely
I
fair.
will say
To
that again.
me
I do agree that
personally,
when
it's just the things that irked me, the things that stood out to me as I didn't like, just stand out to me more than what the positives did for this season.
yes, I kind of tend to agree with you that at least in the sense that when it's all said and done, nothing was really accomplished.
Hmm.
Nothing was really, nothing moved in terms of the heroes. But at the
Yeah,
same time, I enjoyed what was there. I
which is
enjoyed
fair.
the journey, and I know that and I also know, like, if let's say that if this was like the first season, like if this was a brand new show, I would have probably be singing a different tune here. I would have said that I hated this. But I think the fact that I do know these characters, and it was kind of fun to see them again, and I did need kind of a reintroduction, and there were some stuff that did progress in some way. I feel like I can forgive it here.
Hmm. Which is completely fair.
And even though we have kind of a cliffhanger set up for the next season, I feel like I at least got something out of this
Hmm.
season. I got something to enjoy and kind of sink my teeth into.
Hmm.
But but I also kind of say yes. This is like at the end of the day, the plot progression is minimal.
Mm. At least for now.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Where do things go? We'll see. But
Hmm.
I did we cover everything? I
Well,
think
I
we
think we
went
should end
over.
off with, asking favorite scene or favorite episode. Do you have one for this season?
I think my favorite scene would have to be, when they present as his mother with the drawing, and
Mm.
it leads to the entire speech, to everyone's speech and everyone's reaction to it and stuff. I think this was my favorite.
I think favorite scene wise, I'll pick.
And ironically enough, even though it's kind of pointless in the grand scheme of things, I honestly think my favorite plot was the C plot with the Maya and Janai. I think it
Yeah,
was a really good
like
plot.
we've not mentioned much
But
about that, by the way, but like I have nothing to complain about with that. I thought all of that was
Yeah,
great. Like,
like
yeah, you
let's
can say, hey,
say,
we've seen this story countless times. Yeah, we've seen that kind of story countless times because it's a good story to
but
tell.
it's done so
And yeah,
well.
it's done so well here.
You know what? If I have to bring up a scene that I like, I like yeah, because a bit after how do you say, like because one of the things that happens there is that one of the like he's trying to light up like this light as part of a
Oh yeah,
tradition,
like yeah,
and
it's the
and
tradition
there's
of
a
seeing
human
off
girl.
a dead loved one, and yeah, that Sunfire Elf, that scene. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but this leads to so Janai's brother tells her, listen, like it's there was she this human kind of committed a crime at the end of the day, and Amaya intervenes and he asks her what do lights mean to you, and lights mean to her, and she says, oh, it's for birthdays and stuff and everything, and I like that bit that yeah, you're taking this a bit too, you're taking this a bit too far. But Maya also later on during the trial actually
Hmm.
stands up and says, yes, it was wrong of her. It was wrong. It was wrong of her to do this. It was, I may not see the big deal, but I understand it's a big deal to you guys.
Hmm.
I felt like it was a good moment of learning for her.
Yeah.
And then also when we get to the trial and Amaya says, you know what, if she's guilty and deserves to die, then so am I. So a lot of people here because we all make mistakes. And I did like that Janai kind of found this middle ground that she said the woman's guilty. But you know what? But I'm not gonna kill you. I'm gonna give you a punishment where if you think the lights shouldn't be, lit outside, then I want you to build something that would allow us to, put the lights on and be safe,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
build a temple basically.
Yeah.
I really like that. It
Yeah, that was a
was
great
so
scene.
good.
100% agreed. Very great scene. Just seeing everything about that and seeing, yeah, like especially with Amaya making her jokes at first and then going through the trial and hearing everyone talk about everything and coming to understand, like, oh, wait, those jokes were disrespectful. I was wrong. And this person, this architect for what she did was also wrong. And yeah, just seeing her, like, hey, in spite of us being wrong, though, asking for mercy and saying, like, hey, death for this isn't necessarily the right choice, right? Allow people to learn and try to be better in the future. Like, yeah, it's
So
100%
a
a
little
great scene.
detail, yeah, little detail that I want to point out is that it's established that Amaya is deaf, and it's a thing I
Mhm.
really like about this show. But it's also here that because she's communicating via sign language, and I'm not sure if they necessarily tease that or show that in any way. But this isn't really also really focused on the fact that she's also reading lip movement, and that's really cool because there
Mhm.
are moments where like she's talking to Janai, and there's a close up on Janai's lips that like you can see that she's reading her lips. She doesn't need a translator for it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, a
like,
little
yeah.
detail
No, I
spoke
agree.
volumes.
Yeah, no, again, I come back to it, man. The Amaya and Janai stuff was some of the best stuff of this season. And it's
Yeah,
like, it
it's so
pains me to
it
say
is
that I
so
think
yeah.
they
It
should
comes from
cut some
the
of that stuff in order to give more to our main characters. Like, because
Mhm.
again, like, it's so good. That could have been, as we said before, a small season in its own, a small show in its own, or a book in its own, because it's written so well, it's done so well. And it's
Mhm.
like, I hate to say it, but I do feel, you should have sacrificed some of that in order to give more to our main characters, because I think they needed more than what that C plot needed.
Mhm.
But at the same time, if you did that, the
Well,
C plot wouldn't have been so good. So it's like, where
yeah,
do
it's
I
a
sit
double-edged
here?
sword. It's a double-edged sword. Yeah.
I
Well,
think for me, like favorite scene, I'll have to pick. I think it's between the moment we just talked about and
mhm,
the moment between Soren and Claudia, when Soren captures Claudia, and
mhm.
a third moment of them giving their gifts to Rex Igneous and hearing them explain what each gift meant to them personally. Like, I think that was also really
Yeah.
interesting. Callum's was the only one that felt a little bit meh, because like Rayla's was great, like hearing her explain the swords and talking about Runan and, you know, her essentially her dad's again after her parents died, and then hearing Ezran
Yes.
talk about his crown and how that was made from his father's sword, like, you know, again, like little things like that, really interesting. Callum's was the only one that was a bit meh, because he did just get the staff, and the relationship between him and the Sky Mage hasn't been something that's really been focused
Yeah,
on.
there's another great moment, like when Callum packs up the mirror and Soren sees it, and it's like the stuff this mirror caused my father to do. Like, he's mad at this thing. He hates it.
Yeah. And then it's destroyed, so yay, it's gone.
Well,
Almost
yeah.
instantly.
Well, what can you do? So, well, I guess I think we basically covered everything, though. But I guess we talked about season 4. What would you like to see in season 5? Like, what season 5 has to do in order to change you, like to for you to consider this an improvement?
I mean, I would, again, I if we can get some flashbacks of some stuff that happened during that 2 years that maybe give us more context to things, that'd be great. But just continuing on and seeing like the changes these characters have made, seeing more of our main characters and our main villains and their journey to, you know, try and stop them from freeing Erebos, and just seeing all of them, like seeing more of that and seeing more of Claudia and Terry's relationship, and what exactly is it between them? Is Claudia just using them? You know, what are they going with for their, again, like more context essentially for that. I would love to see more of Amaya and Janai, but I feel like, you know, you had your C plot with them. Let that be. Now let's switch gears and focus on Callum, Rayla, Ezran, Soren, and Claudia, Viren, and Terry. Let's really nail in and focus on them for the next season, or, you know, for the next couple, for the rest of whatever we're doing, right? Like, that should be our focus. Like, maybe Amaya and Janai pop up every now and again, but they shouldn't be our focus right now. They should be, you know, we've seen their story. Like, yeah, it's going to be rough for them. They're going to have to do a lot of work, but we know they can manage now. Janai and Amaya have shown that, like, they can handle it. They're good. We don't need to worry about them anymore. You've shown us that. So no more C plot. Let's focus on our A and B plot with our villains and our main characters now. And let's move that forward, and let's really dive into them now. You know, I think that's my big thing. Like, no more C plot. I don't feel we need it right now. I don't feel it should be our focus.
Or at least have it connect more.
Or at least have it connect more if it's something we're going to do. Yeah. I think, yeah, that's my thing.
I think I basically agree, but I also think that, okay, you had season 4 to kind of set us back up in this universe again. How about season 5 starts getting a bit more... I'm not to say that this was filler or something, but like, let me at least leave the next season knowing that something actually moved along and something was accomplished. Don't play just because you had 3 more seasons to spread the story out. Don't make me wait. Let's also get to some of the good stuff, if it's okay with you, showrunners.
Fair. Also, someone fucking bring up the fact that Callum's a human casting magic like elves. Someone, please, anyone. I don't care who it is.
Something. I think an explanation on that. Now that you brought it up, I guess an explanation on this would be nice.
I don't need you to explain it yet. Just someone, please bring it up.
I'm not saying yet, but like sooner rather than later.
Yes, something. Give me something. At least confirm that he is just human. Don't like lead us along that, oh, he might be special. No, just do something with it. Please, I beg of you. I'm dying over here. I'm not really, but still.
I just want to point out before we close that the guy who likes Dragons the Nine Realms was negative about the dragon. This is something I never thought I'd like to see.
Listen. All I'm gonna say is that the Dragon Prince I hold in a lot higher regard.
Okay. Fair. I'm just joking. I'm just
No,
messing with
no,
you. No.
it's a fair observation to make, right? Like, I'm willing to give. I'll admit, like, I give the Nine Realms a lot more leeway because it's not great, unfortunately. But again, I come back to this, right? I don't want to come on here and be negative. And overall, like, there's a
Yeah.
lot that I liked about Dragon Prince season 4.
For the record, also, whenever we do a negative review or something, it's not because we want it. It's sometimes if we don't like something, you know.
I mean, it's always right. I think everyone would agree, or should agree at least, anyways, that no one wants to hate anything. No one wants to dislike something. They want to come into something and say, I loved this. This was great, right? To come back and say, everything about this was good, there was very little I disliked, right? To come on and say, yeah, there's quite a few things about this that I just they didn't sit well with me. I disagreed with them. I disliked them. They didn't work for me. Is the thing that no one wants to do because you want things to be good, right? So coming on and saying like, oh man, this just wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be. It kind of fell flat for me. I don't want to do that. I want to come on and say, I loved this, right? So I come on here and talk about the things that fell flat for me in the hopes that, right, oh, someone watching the show will hear this and it's like, that's the kind of critique we needed, the things we needed to hear. Great, we can do better next season. They're probably not, but that's the hope, right? Like, you hear this and you learn, okay, these are the things that we probably shouldn't do. Or if we do them, we do them better.
So I guess with that said, that's all for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed it. What are your thoughts on the Dragon Prince season 4? Do you agree with Wolf or do you side more with me? And what do you want to see for season 5? You can tell us all about it in the comment section below, on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team, and on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C. So until next time, I was HC.
I was Wolf.
And we will see you all next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.